Dungeons and Dragons and co-founder of TSR, the company he'd created to publish the game. A few weeks later, Ward went over to Gygax's house and played. Gygax believed Ward waited a few weeks because, during the interim, he was checking up to find out if we were merely eccentric or actually dangerous lunatics. What Ward played there was a revelation, unlike anything else at the time. In most war games, you controlled an army or a unit of soldiers. But in this game, you controlled just one person. Only one. And you could choose whether they were a fighter, a wizard, or a thief, or if they took on an even more outrageous role. Since it was a fantasy world, you could be an elf or a dwarf if you wanted. And you had total control over this one person, called a character. If a band of evil knights stood in your way, your character could try sneaking past, fighting them, or talking the knights into letting you go. It was up to you. If you wanted your character to sing Love Potion number 9 to distract a Cyclops, you could do that too. Now, you could fail, and your character could die. After all, if the Cyclops didn't like music, it might try to make toothpicks out of your femurs. But the existence of failure just made every choice more vitally important. This was a burst of total freedom bounded only by the imagination. Gygax told Ward it was called Dungeons and Dragons. As the years rolled on, Ward became a regular TSR freelancer and Gygax's trusted confidant. Ward read and commented on his work. He designed Metamorphosis Alpha, the first science fiction role-playing game. Modestly, he named the ship in the game after himself, calling it the Warden. In 1980, he was finally hired on at the company full-time. Though fired in 1984, he was hired back again within 18 months. The person hired to replace him quit within 3 months because the workload was so heavy, and Ward's freelancing duties for the company were so extensive, despite not being on the payroll, that it was determined it would be cheaper to hire him back. He survived the ouster of Gary Gygax as CEO of the company in 1985 and rose to the position of vice president. TSR was, for most of its existence, the indispensable gaming company. It had created the entire genre of role-playing and had sales in the millions of dollars, supporting a staff of over 100 people. By the early 1990s, it seemed as central and eternal as the sun. Meanwhile, in Washington State, a small game company was created called Wizards of the Coast. Like TSR, its first offices were in its owner's basement. After a few years producing role-playing games and their supplements, Wizards of the Coast published the game that would define their company and, like D&D, create an entire new genre of game, Magic the Gathering. In Magic, players take on the role of dueling wizards. They gain power, or mana, from lands they control and use them to power spells against their opponent. The game was a stunning success, a virtual license to print money for Wizards of the Coast. What made it one of the most profitable games of all time was its all-new collectible aspect. When you bought the game, you didn't get all the cards for it. To get all the cards, you had to buy booster packs. And every time you bought a booster pack, you had no idea what cards you were going to get. Furthermore, some cards were rarer than others. Whole boxes might have to be purchased to find some of the rarest cards in the line. Better yet, having these incredibly rare cards did not just net bragging rights. You could actually use the cards in the game, making you a better player. The fusion of collectability and gameplay built Magic into a nigh addictive phenomenon. Gamers spent and spent and spent on decks, packs, and cards, sending a river of money surging into the coffers of Wizards. The company burst out of its basement offices to become a titan of the gaming industry. It was even bigger than TSR. According to Ward, TSR felt like oxygen was being pumped out of the room. Sales began to decline. Ward said this new game was way easier to play than D&D, So people started going towards Magic the Gathering.